This is SportsCenter.
On the first winter edition of NHSBN SportsCenter, we cover the Ramsey County Tournament, where the Bearcats fully lived up to their billing. And for the first time in 10 years, we've got some hockey coverage as the Firebirds take on Red River and the Spoilers. Boys basketball will just have to wait till next time. Sit back and get ready for NHSBN SportsCenter, right now.
Hi, and welcome to SportsCenter. For the past 2 years, the girls' basketball team has come up just short of qualifying for the state tournament. In both years, they lost to the Lakota Edmore Raiders, but the Raiders are looking at a rebuilding year, while the Bearcats are returning 5 of their top 6 players from last year. Bearcat fans are hopeful that this will be their breakthrough year.
Their first test would be the Ramsey County Tournament. The Bearcats were rated number 1, so they were to take on the number 8 seed, the Dakota Prairie Knights. The Bearcats were ready to start their season, and that showed in their play. For one of Steph Miller's 5 assists for the game, she finds Macy Quilving, who puts it up and in for 2 of her 19 points. Macy Quilving finds Stephanie Miller cutting low, and Miller delivers 2 of her 20 points of the game. Madison Borstead is left wide open, and she lets it fly for 2 of her 10 points of the game. Peyton Halverson starts to drive to the basket, and she finds Brenna Logie, who is trailing and left wide open. Logie shoots and puts it in for 2. Miller is very effective from the perimeter, and she proves that here, as she cashes a 3-pointer. With Quilving's height, it is easy for her to see over the opponent. She finds Peyton Halverson cutting to the basket. Halverson puts up 2 of her 6 points of the night. Borstead runs after a loose ball and picks it up and drives to the hoop. It goes up and in, count it, and a foul. Quilving sets a ball pick for Miller. As she rolls, Miller delivers a pass. Quilving puts it in for 2. For one of her 5 assists, Quilving finds Miller posting up, and Miller scores. The Bearcats won their first game of the season. 4 players were in double figures in points in this game. This would be the game that would bring them to the semifinal match. On the second day of the tournament, the Bearcats took on the Four Winds Minnewacan Indians. The Bearcats went into this game knowing that Four Winds Minnewacan could shoot from the perimeter, but they were ready for the challenge. Quilving gets an assist as she finds Miller cutting to the basket. Miller puts 2 points on the board. The defender is playing tight defense on Quilving. She dribbles around her and puts up a jumper for 2 of her 26 points on the night. Borstead passes it to Quilving. As Halverson is cutting to the basket, Quilving makes a nice pass, and Halverson puts up 2 of her 16 points. Maya Halverson dribbles down the baseline and finds Brenna Logie under the basket, who puts up some points. Halverson is left wide open, stop and pop, 3-pointer for Halverson. Quilving uses her long reach to catch a high pass and puts up a baseline jumper. Rebound by Quilving as she outlets it to Halverson, who is looking up court, and finds Logie, who gets a fast break layup. Quilving looks over the defense and finds Logie, who puts up an easy shot. A rebound by Quilving, she passes it to Miller, and Faith Crum runs up the court as she gets the fast break layup. For the second straight game, the Bearcats get a win of over 20 points. Macy Quilving and Peyton Halverson were in double figures in points for this game.
For the third game of the season, the Bearcats were to take on the Devils Lake Firebirds JV team in the championship game. This team always seems to be a contender against the Bearcats at some point in the tournament. Macy Quilving passes the ball down to Stephanie Miller for the layup. Miller returns the favor and tosses it to Quilving for the step back and basket to add to her 23-point total from the night. Peyton Halverson gets the rebound and puts up a left-sided layup. Taylor Crum throws a high lob over the defenders for Quilving to get the shot off. Maddie Borstead chucks a hard pass down to Brenna Logie to put it up. Steph Miller posts up and executes a shot for 2 of her 17 total points. Quilving blocks and stuffs the ball straight down to the floor for 1 of her 9 blocks. Halverson gets back on the fast break to block the Firebird opponent from an easy layup. Miller pops up the open 3 to settle out which team was in control of the game. Borstead gets the rebound on the left side and puts up a layup to bounce into the hoop. The Bearcats remain strong throughout the whole tournament and end up winning the championship. Macy Quilving and Stephanie Miller led the team in points with double-digit scoring. Macy Quilving, Peyton Halverson, and Stephanie Miller were all named to the all-tournament team.
And now we'll send it over to Cale Miller for some hockey coverage.
The Firebirds started out the season with 3 away games. The first was against Botany, who they beat 9-0. The next game against Fargo South started out slow, but they picked it up in the end and won 6-2. The third game was more of a challenge as the Firebirds went up against Fargo Davies. The game was tight throughout, but the Birds pulled through and won 2-1 in overtime. The first home game was against Red River. Both teams were undefeated at this point, so the game would determine first place in the EDC. Red River is always one of the top teams in the East, although the Firebirds did beat them last year. Let's go to the highlights.
Devils Lake was having a hard time getting many shots on goal until penalties gave the Firebirds a two-man advantage in the third period. With the 5-on-3, Bourne gets the puck on the blue line, skates towards the net, and connects with Kanoki, who shoots and scores for the Firebirds' first goal of the game. Sebelius gets the puck in the defensive zone and passes to Martin at the opposite blue line, who skates it up a ways and gets the second goal of the game.
That goal gave the Firebirds their first lead in the game, but Red River scored the final 3 goals of the game and came away with a 4-2 win. The second home game was against the Grafton Spoilers. This is the biggest rivalry game that the Firebirds have. Grafton Alleys brings a big contingent of fans for this yearly matchup.
Sebelius gets the puck along the boards and passes to Wren at the point. Wren takes a shot that gets deflected into the net by Martin. It's a power play for the Firebirds when Bourne gives it to Rulli behind the net. Rulli skates the puck to the boards and passes it back to Bourne. Bourne puts a wrist shot in the back of the net, giving the Firebirds a 2-1 lead. At that point, Grafton ran off 6 straight goals, with the Firebirds down 7-2. Rulli passes to Bourne at the point, who takes it to the center of the ice and shoots. Kanoki picks up the loose puck in front of the net and takes a wrist shot for the Firebirds' third goal of the game. Rulli takes the puck to the net and puts it in for the Firebirds' final goal of the game, making the final score 8-4 in favor of the Spoilers.
That's it for hockey. Back to you, Peyton.
Thanks, Kale. And that's it for us too. Check back after the Christmas break for our next Sports Center.